What's up, guys? Hope your day's going well. My name is College Sports Advisor, and I'm your host for episode number 37 of the College Hoops 2K Legacy Mode series featuring Coach Carter. Just a quick update on this series for you guys before we get today's video underway. So, videos on my channel of this series might get a little slow for a few weeks as I'll be grinding out as much as Season 4 as I can over the next couple weeks. My time overseas on this deployment is coming to an end, so I'm going to be shipping my 360 home in about a week or two. So I'm going to try to marathon Season 4 so I have plenty of footage to edit down and post. So just be patient while I get all the recording ready so I can ship my 360 home. I promise that more content will be on the way. In the meantime, with that out of the way, it's time to jump back into the series with Coach Carter and Fordham. And we got to be ready for a big episode today. We have 5 seniors to replace, as this Fordham team will be getting a lot younger this summer. So it's up to Coach Carter to replace our departing core that's played such a vital part in this series up to this point. I didn't ever want our 21-win season to end, and I'm sure senior starters Fabian Swanson, Preston Murphy, and Evangelo Higgins, I'm sure they didn't want it to end either, with all 3 of them playing excellent in the round of 64 loss to Michigan State last episode. But at the end of the day, these 3 key players will be forever enshrined on this channel by helping us defeat all the odds and get this struggling program back to the tournament for the first time since 1991. First things first, we'll start with our annual player recaps where we talk about everyone's positives and negatives on the season and discuss what we expect of them out of the future. And as always, these off-season videos are always jam-packed with content, so if you want to skip ahead, feel free to use the video scroll bar down below. So Kai Hendry, our freshman point guard, leads things off in the player recaps as we start with the starting 5. And he was a guy who had hefty expectations to fill as our first ever 4-star recruit in this series. And that includes Coach Carter's 6 years back at UT Martin as well. Kai needed a few weeks to adjust to the speed of college ball. He had a lot on his shoulders being a day 1 starter. He didn't really find his groove until I'd say around conference play started to kick off. And then whenever he turned it on, he was on. He was one of the best two-way guards in the A10 at his peak. He showed plenty of shooting, finishing 3rd on the team in 3-point percentage. He passed the ball extremely well down the stretch of the regular season, almost tallying 10 assists multiple times, and he held his own defensively against some of the best guards in the A10. There is plenty to work on, however. His consistency isn't quite there, but that's to be expected being the 4th scoring option on the team and being a freshman, obviously. And he's going to also need to work on getting inside for easier looks. I feel like that's going to help the consistency, and that'll also create more opportunities to rack up assists as well. Over half his field goal attempts came from behind the line, so that might need to shift a little bit if he wants to take the reins of the offense next season. We're losing our top 3 scorers here in Season 3's off-season, so as one of the few returning players, he needs to be a leader now. That means no more games like his disappointing 6th turnover performance against Michigan State in the tournament where he looked checked out. Here's the first of 5 hard goodbyes we're going to have to say today. Starting 2 guard Preston Murphy, our heart and soul, our leading scorer, top steal man, 3-point shooter, free throw maker, top 3 scorer in the conference, and perhaps a member of some of the all-conference teams later on in the episode. I'm sure he's going to have some hardware to take away from this awesome senior year. Murphy was a raw shoot-first guard when Coach Carter took over the reins of this program a couple years ago, but his development has been a treat to behold over these past few seasons. Every role we put him in, he delivered, and every spot he found himself in helped fleshed out his game in the long run. He played point guard in Season 2, and I think that really helped his vision and ability to beat defenses with his passing. He was put in the limelight more and more in Season 3 and responded with a memorable 9-game stretch near the end of the regular season where we were dealing with injuries, and he decided to drop 17 plus points in that 9-game stretch. He answered the call every time we called his number over the years, and he might be the best all-around scorer I've ever seen on this channel. I wouldn't say he's the best scorer. I think Jacques Diggs from the UT Martin era of this series still holds that distinction. He was a legend. But in terms of all-around offensive game, I think Murph's got it. He's got NBA range, is a lead off the bounce, lightning quick, can finish in so many ways, can pass like a point guard. There's really no weakness to his repertoire on offense, and that's the main reason why he's left his name etched in stone on this channel. Another very impactful senior who will be departing this season. I'm very proud of Evangelo Higgins and the player he's become in his senior year. Our second leading scorer this year, Evo, was a big part in our success on both sides of the floor. He became the best slasher on the squad by far thanks to his shiftiness and leaping ability, and also was the best perimeter defender on the roster. His length and quickness bothered a lot of the better shooters we faced, and we started sticking him on the opponent's best outside weapon every game. I was also shocked at how much Higgins improved his jumper over the years. When Coach Carter got here, Eva only took 62 threes on his sophomore year and was very up and down from the arc, but as a senior, he shot just under 100 threes and sunk just over 40%. Higgins also overcame a lot of adversity as well. We watched most of his junior year get cut short due to a broken ankle, and it was rumored he was falling out of favor with Coach Carter a bit, but he decided to squash all the naysayers' opinions with this senior year sayonara, capping off his career with a heroic 34-point career high performance and the loss to Michigan State. Definitely gonna miss my man Evo. Fabian Swanson is our third and final senior who will be leaving us this summer. Senior starter, I should say. We still got 2 more off the bench, and it's not hard to be impressed with his development as well. The hometown product has a very similar story to Coach Carter here at Fordham. Both Swanson and Coach Carter came here 3 years ago looking for a bigger and better opportunity. Swanson was a JUCO transfer with 3 years left of eligibility, and his progress was awesome as well. I had really high hopes for him back in that tough first season we only won 6 games in, and he delivered tenfold. His mid-range game has always had to be respected. He led the team in rebounds and blocks as a senior. Just overall had a very smooth approach to basketball and was always in the right place at the right time, while also being able to hit the occasional 3 as well. Just a very smooth player, and I'm going to miss him a lot. Between Swanson, Higgins, and Murphy, that's 39.4 points per game we're losing from a roster that posted 67 points a night. I think you're starting to see why this is such a pivotal offseason for the program. I'm definitely going to miss this trio. Bennett Pincala was our starting center this year, and to be honest, I felt like I was a little too harsh on him sometimes. This is an A10 conference loaded with frontcourt talent. It feels like every good team is built around a star center, so every night, Pincala is guarding some of the best bigs in the country as a true freshman. He showed some growth as a rookie overall, I think. His numbers won't wow you, but the shot attempts were scarce behind Hendry, Higgins, and Swanson, and Murphy as well. They were hard to come by, but he did shoot an efficient 56% from the field as a freshman. And we saw him even expand his range a little bit out to 10 to 12 feet for some baby jumpers near the end of the year, so perhaps he can make that a mainstay of his game. Offensively, he was pretty much as expected, but he's going to need some time in the gym getting better on the glass and bigger playing D. Bennett saw some nights where he played big and you saw opponents struggle inside. Like I thought he played great in the A10 tournament against Michigan State. They had some trouble scoring inside on us, but other nights he played a little scared and a little small and was invisible in games, like the A10 championship where Xavier cooked us inside and he was invisible. If he's going to become a starting center in this league, he's going to need to work every single night, and I think he's got the grind for it. A work in progress, but I like where Pincala is going to be at in a couple years, I think. Unfortunately, College Hoops 2K is pretty buggy and a bunch of the bench player stats got messed up, so bear with me. As you can see here, I think it's a glitch or something, not really sure, but our 6-man Dustin Black was again a very positive player for our thin bench unit. We don't need the stats to realize how solid he's been over his career. An ankle injury derailed his sophomore year, unfortunately though, so Dustin had to watch from the sidelines as we made our miraculous year 3 run to the tournament, but while he played, he always found a way to make his mark. Dustin is just one of those coaches' dreams. He's just one of those guys who performs in whatever role you put him in. Like last year, had the injury to Higgins, he steps in and plays starters minutes and had an excellent stretch of games in year 2. And this year, he leads the bench in minutes, 3-pointers, assists, and steals while playing some clutch minutes in favor of Hendry multiple times in the season. The first ever recruit of Coach Carter's Fordham tenure, Black is a great bench piece, but we gotta help him get help in the second unit. The lack of depth on this team was one of the biggest weaknesses in year 3, and we can't expect him to carry the load by himself. And it may be a weakness even more so in year 4 after losing this guy. Corey Terrell was a JUCO signee for season 2 and made huge strides as a senior. His progression was so good, we even were thinking about moving him into the starting lineup over Pincala just to see what he could do, but we ended up keeping him off the bench with how well we were doing as a team. 4.5 points, 1 block, and only 13 minutes a night is very effective, but those numbers might have went down being the 5th option in the starting 5. All in all, though, very happy Terrell decided to come here, and his spark was very welcomed and was a big part in our run this season. And we're lucky to have some big man depth on the roster and in recruiting to fill his void, because we're going to need some grittiness down low to replace this hard-working Texan big man. Our 8th man was Chen Lee, who also fought some injury woes as a sophomore. He was falling out of the rotation a little bit before he broke his ankle in February, and that kept him sidelined all the way up until March Madness. And despite nothing but rest and rehab for almost 2 months, he checked right back in and provided a nice spark in that loss to Michigan State last episode. It's clear Coach Carter does like his game. He's got a great frame, good mid-range game, runs the floor well, but that deep potential is what's holding us back from giving him more run. It's like, what's the point of giving him more time to develop with more minutes if he's only a deep potential? That, on top of missing most of his sophomore year with the ankle injury, that also plays into his progression. How much better is he going to get over his final 2 years? Also, you can't forget we have Junior Battle, who received the red shirt last year, and he'll be vying for backup center minutes in year 4. And we're going after the nation's leading rebounder in recruiting right now in high school, so no one's job is really safe in the front court right now outside of Pincala, so expect a battle for minutes for the bigs on the team in year 4. Milos Filipovic is an Eastern European freshman who saw some extended run when Dustin Black went down. I think the extra time helped him for the fact that now he knows what it's like to have big minutes on a nightly basis. So if the injuries pile up again like they did last year, I think he'll be better prepped this time around. I don't believe he'll ever be much more than a deeper bench piece. He got really quiet for long stretches of time, but if he can get a little bit of a better handle and continue to do well in transition, perhaps Milos Filipovic could develop into a backup guard that maybe sees, 12 to 10 minutes a game. KJ Bigsby also saw extra time with our injury struggles, but I think he failed to impress as well, and that's now 2 years in a row where he couldn't make an impression during a thinned out rotation. It'd be easier to show you if these stats weren't all glitched and bugged out, but KJ has found himself in a situation to show what he's got for the 2nd year in a row, but his weaknesses continue to overshadow his time on the court. We redshirted KJ to begin this series back in year 1 because he's a tweener, and we weren't sure which forward spot he was going to play. The team had seen some injuries in years 2 and last year, but KJ still hasn't looked comfortable with all the extra time. At this point, I'm not sure if he ever will, although he did provide some big defensive plays against that Michigan State team last episode. With all the turnover next year, I'm not ruling out regular minutes for him, but he hasn't shown that he deserves them just yet. No Chen Lee for almost 2 months meant that we'd see some decent time from walk-on freshman Rondell Dunnington. I think he played adequately in his brief time in the rotation. Definitely an energy guy who probably shouldn't play more than just a handful of minutes at a time due to his lack of offensive identity. But I do like his strength, I like his hustle, I like his motor, his rebounding. If he can improve his decision making and find some way to contribute on offense, he might be able to crack the rotation a little bit. But with the influx of bigs we're going to have coming in, I don't think that that's very likely. Although he is a good player in practice to push the starters with his hustle, and if we get the injury bug again, I would not be mad at all having Rondell stepping in. Chris Smith is our 5th and final senior who will be departing ahead of season 4, a bench guard who hasn't really played much minutes in his career, but it was nice to see him get some minutes on senior day after we beat UMass pretty good. 2 redshirted players will be joining the rotation next year as well. One is Craig Stone, a former 3-star recruit out of Atlanta whose day 1 ratings were a little disappointing. Nothing really stands out, so I don't think he'll play much as a freshman, but I do like his B potential. And Junior Battle, a Richmond High School OG, he'll be suiting up for us this year and playing for Coach Carter again. And I think his 65 overall is very misleading. I do like his skill set a lot, and I want him to be our primary backup center in year 4. I have very high hopes for him. Good potential, can defend the hoop with his excellent athletic ability. I also want him rim running on the fast break with his foot speed and finishing skills. I expect Junior to make an impact early. If he does what I think he's capable of, he can be the perfect backup 5 for years here at Fordham. Alright, so Fordham's player recaps are out of the way. It's time to recap from a nationwide scale instead of a team scale. Let's take a look at the March Madness bracket to see how the rest of March Madness ended up going down. So we'll start out in the East Regional, the number 1 overall seed, the NC State Wolfpack, steamrolling their way through the tournament except for a scare against Kentucky, and Kentucky was almost beat down by San Fran. So some close games here in this region as Louisville just barely sneaks by Stanford there. So we have the number 1 seed NC State from the top of the East Regional about to play the winner of Duke in Maryland, and it would be Duke that knocks off Maryland in a all ACC Sweet 16. So a nice little run by the 10 seed. So Duke versus NC State, and it's yet another close game in this East Regional. Our first Final Four participant will be the NC State Wolfpack, the number 1 overall seed in the tournament, 63-62. In the West Regional, Fordham's region, just missed out on a tango with UNC. Unfortunately, just did not come to fruition. It wasn't our year. But take a look at this. The 8th seed Spartans taking down North Carolina by 6. And you saw Ray Dillard drop 12-7. Ahmad Mathis, their leading scorer on the year, 11-7. Yeah, that's pretty impressive there. But they do fall by 13 to the Oregon Ducks, who are looking pretty dominant so far. Take a look at this. This might be the biggest upset of the March Madness bracket. The former 2-time champions, Georgia Tech, losing to Southern Utah in the first round. Definitely did not expect that one. Moving down to the bottom half of our region, Charlotte makes it look easy in the first round, survives a scare against the Fighting Illini, and then takes care of business in a shootout against the Baylor Bears. So it's either going to be Charlotte or it's going to be perhaps the 4th seed, the Oregon Ducks, and it will be Oregon taking down the A-10 regular season champions 77-71. And one of the bigger storylines, probably the biggest storyline within the A-10, has to revolve around DeAndre Perry, the first-team All-American pick coming into the year. Will he stay for one more season at what could be a 90-plus overall, or will he enter the NBA draft to probably be taken top 10? We've seen players in the past risk it all and ruin their draft stock by staying an extra year. We've seen guys like Johnny Juzang just not work out for them, but maybe DeAndre Perry stays one more year to try to go after that national title. We will have to see later on. So I also want to show this game. UT Martin hangs tough with Kansas for a half and then kind of loses it in the second half, but this is actually the final player from UT Martin, the UT Martin era of this series. Coach Carter coached Brian Gill. He was our backup point guard in our final year of the series, and he is now a senior. So that is our final remnant from Coach Carter's era at UT Martin. So from now on, we have no more ties to Tennessee Martin, which is kind of crazy to think about. St. Louis, just a little bit too young, I thought. They lose to Long Beach State. And then we see Bowling Green, the Falcons, the 14 seed from the MAC, making some noise. They unfortunately fall to Texas, but they give them a good game as well. So here in the South, it's either going to be Texas or Kansas. Let's see who pulls it out. The 1 versus 2 game here in the South, and it will be the Longhorns by 9 in a shootout, a classic right here. Where the Georgetown Hoyas were the number 1 overall seed. They had some trouble with TCU in the second round, and then they fall to the UConn Huskies in an all Big East Sweet 16. So UConn, the winners of the top half Midwest Regional. Nice little upset there by Davidson. And then we see Temple and Xavier get owned by LSU. Temple and Xavier, 2 more A-10 teams who can't make it out the first round. Charlotte was the only team that could do so, and Fordham nearly joined them by a point. They lost to Michigan State, obviously. How about the Golden Gophers blowing out Miami? And then after LSU steamrolled 2 A-10 teams, they get steamrolled themselves. Goldie Gopher continues to make noise, and they will continue to do that all the way into the Final Four. The 10th seed Minnesota Golden Gophers, America's honey, America's sweetheart. We'll see if they can beat Texas. They nearly do. They lose by a bucket. And NC State brings Oregon back down to reality, 84-63. So here is your championship matchup. The number 1 Wolfpack against the number 2 Texas Longhorns here in Season 3's National Championship. It's the classic offense versus defense matchup today, guys. Definitely one of the more interesting championship games on paper we've had in this series. We'll start with the underdog Texas Longhorns, a 2 seed with plenty of firepower, putting up the 7th most points per game in the country as a unit. And the guy that does it all is 6'3" point guard Marcel Slater, who's taken the 2nd most threes in all of Division I. And that trigger finger has helped him pace all Big 12 point guards in scoring while being a great passer as well. Rudy Gastell's an excellent 3-and-D wing, and inside they have 7'2" Parker Danley, who can clean up messes with putbacks all day long. We've met the offensive juggernaut. How about the defensive Hercules in NC State? It's rare to see a defense allow less than 60 points a game, even more so in a major conference, but that's what the NC State Wolfpack have done this season, while squeezing over 14 turnovers a game out of their opponents. And with his elite three-point shot to go along with his incredible defensive abilities, leading scorer Stuart Jackson is easily a future NBA lottery pick, looking to end his career with a championship trophy. And junior point man Adam Crossan will have to be ready defensively to guard Marcel Slater. The Wolfpack seek the third championship in history of their program, the first since the late great Jimmy Valvano led them to the 1983 championship over Pat Ewing in Georgetown. Meanwhile, Texas won a championship virtually on this channel before, and that was in my Road to NBA 2K My Player series, where my point guard led them to their first trophy in school history. If you've seen that video, then you are a legend. We were a 2 seed just like this Texas team as well in that March. We'll see if this team can pull it off just like we did, as the skyscraper Parker Danley wins the tip for UT. However, this potent offense from Texas will come up empty on their first possession, so it'll be NC State with the first highlight of the game. So we see the ball move around. They're trying to get open their top scorer on the season, and they do successfully. Stuart Jackson, who I could see having a very bright NBA career. This guy is a jack of all trades, leading this team in points, rebounds, blocks, three-pointers made, and minutes per game. But how about Parker Danley already showing off his usefulness as a 7'2" sophomore scores his first basket? And he's a big reason why this Longhorns team averages 30.3 points per game. Here he is again for back-to-back buckets. 30.3 rebounds a night. That is a stat you won't see many teams triumphing as they take a slim but modest 3-point lead. And take a look at Marcel Slater putting the clamps on the point guard, but he gives it up to my boy Stuart Jackson, who rides the baseline to put in 2 more. And that's actually Parker Danley's second personal here in the early stages of this game. So Texas is going to be without their skyscraper inside thanks to Stuart Jackson's aggressiveness, and he's having a great start to this game. 10-12 left to go in the first half. Bit of a slower start than you might have anticipated if you're a fan of the Longhorns. There's a steal by Gabe Tyree, and in transition, it's Stuart Jackson pulling up for the tray ball. He gets fouled by Rudy Gastel, the 6'8" senior who he's matching up against, and he makes it. So an opportunity for a 4-point play to put the Wolfpack up by 5 early on, and he gets it to drop. Oh my goodness, what a start. 11 out of the first 16 points for the Wolfpack belong to Stuart Jackson, but better defense this time as the Longhorns try to score without their 7'2" behemoth down low. We still haven't seen their star player, this guy with the ball right here, get going much, but this is a nice pass inside. Jamal Esterkamp going backdoor. A guy who's not really a prominent player on this team. He's actually, 7th on this team in points per game, but that was a beautiful cut against the zone. So the Longhorns finally score. It was a pretty long drought without a basket. But let's see if they can finally get going. This one's given to Jimmy Mott. Nice pump fake there. He's got the baseline, but he works his way right into a charge. Adam Crossan, great defensive play, stepping in and taking this one on the chin. You heard the crowd. They didn't agree with this one. But at the end of the day, it's the Wolfpack's ball as this Longhorn offense, it's 1 step forward, 2 steps back. That's been the story for them all first half long. But they do force a stop on their next possession, kicking this one out to Rudy Gastel. They needed that one. Gastel, a 6'8" senior, he's Marcel Slater's wingman. 14 points and a block and a half a game for a 6'8" small ball senior. Small ball 4, I should say. So now 3 minutes to go. Texas cuts it to 2, so the offense improved from the beginning of this game. Nice rebound there by Braun, who already's got 9. Up ahead to Slater. What a take there down the lane. His first basket took him almost 13 minutes of game time, but this was a beauty, one to not forget quickly, man. What a take there by Slater. But he's going to have to get going if this offense for Texas wants to get going. 75.4 points per game. Let's see if they can finally crack the lead. They do, and we'll see if they can maintain it on this last 35 seconds. Big 3-ball there by Marcel Slater. All set up by the dribble drive by Lucas Zollner. That's a 30-24 lead now for the Longhorns of Texas, pretty interesting to see the way this game's going. It hasn't been the best played offensive attack, and you'd think that'd be favoring NC State, the defensive juggernaut, but instead, Texas finds themselves up 6. You see Stuart Jackson with 11 points. He had that great start, but he's been cold ever since. Meanwhile, Jamal Esterkamp leads Texas in scoring with only 6. But we did see Marcel Slater start to find his groove a little bit there at the end. Bad news if you're a Wolfpack fan. So here we go in the second half. Rotated over to Stuart Jackson, pulling a little bully ball right out of the opening tip, the opening inbound, I should say. Jackson had that great start, scoring 11 out of NC State's first 17, and then couldn't find a basket for the rest of the half. This time he tries to find a teammate who gets cut off by Parker Danley, who's back in the game, but a big 3-ball there by Adam Crossan. You'd be surprised to know that NC State actually has the advantage from 3 over the Longhorns this season. The Wolfpack shoot it at an 38.9% clip. Texas only 35.8. Stepping to the line here is the Wolfpack, trying to tie it up, and this one's way too strong, but grabbing the board is Jalen Cottle, who approaches 10 rebounds in the game. Not bad for a 6'6 senior. He's actually 5th on the team in scoring, but he's an excellent rebounder for his size. Wolfpack open for 3. This time, Cottle's boxed out by Othello Braun, who has 10 of his own boards. Setting up the offense this time is Rudy Gastel, who's got good handles for his size, but instead, they'll kick it around. 2-zoner for 3. No, excuse me, that's actually Cyrus Luna, who is just as good, or just as much of a 3-point threat as anybody else on this team. 43-38, the Longhorns with that slim lead still. The Wolfpack are clawing their way back into this one, but with a pass like this, it might be hard. Cyrus Luna setting up his man inside. And that was an awesome screen set by Othello Braun to get the big man open inside. Great dish inside. No look by Luna. It's plays like that make March, man. These flashy plays when these kids show off their abilities. Great defense there on Rashad Roy. Man, this Longhorns defense has really been stepping up here later on in the game. Gastel for 3. That's a backbreaker right there. Slater reaches his season average in assists. It's been a much better second half for the number 2 ranked shooting point guard in terms of 3-point percentage in the country. 52-44, 5:09 to go. The Wolfpack needs some easier opportunities here. Jalen Cottle leaves it short. Very bad miss there, as the Wolfpack are dying for some offensive production at the end of this game. It's off, but the tip-in is put back in. Parker Danley, who may have been a little cold at first with that foul trouble, but he's found his legs to make some production on that end for Texas inside. You see how valuable it is for a team that shoots as many threes as Texas does to have a guy who can just tip in missed shots one after another like that. And now they try to find Stuart Jackson inside, already losing by 10 in NC State. This might be the nail in the coffin for them. Marcel Slater on the break. Great touch pass there by Cyrus Luna, who has been sharing the ball exceptionally well here in the second half. And it looks like the Longhorns will be coasting their way to the second ever national championship on this channel ever won for UT. 64-49. A defensive dominant led way for Texas in this one, only allowing 25 in the second half, most of those coming in garbage time. Marcel Slater with 19 and 4 to lead these Longhorns, but take a look at the production of the starting 5. Everyone sharing the rock and crashing the glass. Those are the 2 columns that really made the biggest difference for me, because even when NC State started to make some shots, these Longhorns would not let their counterpart have more than one opportunity at scoring the ball. And thus, for the first time in this series and the second time on this channel total, the Texas Longhorns are your national champions. Check out that other series if you get the chance, where I was a point guard for Texas in my Player series. Bishop Fellows is your player of the year, a big man out of Alabama, 24.5 points per game and 2 blocks. Very impressive from the Memphis native. Maunuro Nwankwo from Nevada, 25 points a game for the mid-major player of the year at only 6'7", very impressive inside. We move along here with the awards of around the NCAA. Coach of the Year, the Texas Longhorns, guy on the sidelines, Chris Beard, you could say. Stuart Jackson, Defensive Player of the Year, as he wraps up his college career with a title game loss, but very impressive numbers for the 3-and-D wing who should be playing in the NBA next year. Bishop Fellows, Big Man of the Year. He's taking home a lot of hardware in this one. Rico Biggers, another big man, 6'9". He's your Freshman of the Year at 7 points and 7 rebounds a game, along with a block. Queens, New York native. First team All-American, we got Kendrick Da Silva, 24 points a game out of the University of Louisville. Delvin Police from Baylor, 17 points per game. Denoris Childs from Miami. Peyton McKinnon from Arkansas, and Bishop Fellows rounds out first team All-American. Moving on to the second team, we have Marcel Slater, the newest national champion. Presley Stokes from KU. We got Austin Sockwell, who graduates from Missouri. This list full of Big 12 guys, including Rob Lavender, who has another year of eligibility. And then Nwankwo, 25 points per game, rounds out second team All-American. Now, freshman All-American, we have somebody from our school. Kaya Hendry, 9 points and 3.5 assists was enough to get it done. He might have led all freshmen in points per game. I didn't even think about that until now, but I can't say for certain, but if these are the best 5 freshmen in all of America, then he might have done it. What a season by Kaya Hendry. 9 points for the 75 overall freshman who looks to be a leader next year. Conference champions of the regular season was Charlotte's, and in the postseason it was Xavier, with Fordham coming up in second place in that post-conference tournament. We're going to see a bunch of seniors graduating from Charlotte. Nick McIntosh, the NCAA leader in assists. Nathan Lutz and Logan Bowen, their two-headed duo at power forward. But it still remains to be seen if DeAndre Perry, the All-American, will be staying around for another season or jumping to the NBA. Come on, no Coach Carter for Coach of the Year. They give it to Charlotte, the favorites, who couldn't even get it done in the postseason. Oh man, well, Coach Carter's going to have to continue to keep his head on straight to try to find this award in the future. Freddie Salazar, Conference Player of the Year, 18.5 points per game and a block. Kind of interesting to see his offense go up while his defense trended down. I guess he became more of a perimeter player, so perhaps that's why over the years. Kaya Hendry, Conference Freshman of the Year, no surprise as, when you're first team All-American, Conference Freshman of the Year is light work at that point. What a season for our team captain heading into year 4. First team All-Conference, Nick McIntosh, 6.5 assists per game to lead all Division I players. Preston Murphy makes this list, awesome to see, and that had to be because of his huge end to his senior year. We got red hot and couldn't miss there for a while. 16.5 points per game, third in the conference in that category, behind Jalen Byard and Freddie Salazar. And we'll see Nathan Lutz sneak his way on here too, so no DeAndre Perry on the first team. Pretty interesting there. Here on the second team All-Conference, Terrell Desmond, who leads a very inexperienced St. Louis team, is going to get a lot better next year. Deontay Culver is also going to be returning, becoming an upperclassman, so the Billikens perhaps returning to the limelight next year. Scott Polite becomes a junior, Logan Bowen graduates, and DeAndre Perry, second team All-Conference. Still remains to be seen if he's going to go to the NBA. Freshman All-Conference, Kai Hendry, your point guard. Plenty of hardware for him after an awesome freshman year. We see Henry Conran from Southern St. Louis, Richmond's Jerry's Jointer, Isaiah Beecham, and Bennett Pincala as well. I think I was right when I said I was a little too hard on Bennett Pincala. How about this right here? This one definitely shocked me a little bit, but when I think about his freshman year, I'm not all that surprised that he was the best center freshman in the conference. Pincala with a very bright future, hopefully. So Coach Carter earns 2 more upgrades to its attributes entering the 4th season of his Fordham tenure and the 10th year coaching overall in this series. Coach Carter now is 168 and 108. That's his lifetime record in this series, and he earned these grades by coaching an All-American, where we saw Kai Hendry be a freshman All-American, and he earned the other by guiding a larger conference team to the NCAA tournament. I put a lot of thought into what I wanted to upgrade, but becoming possibly the youngest roster we've ever had in this series this offseason, development triumphs everything at this point. So we'll give both boosts to teaching, which will increase the progression rates for his players in practice. I'd really like to get the discipline rating up a bit. I'm not too worried about offense and defense since the assistant coaches I have good ratings for those abilities, but 2 boosts into teaching brings Coach Carter's player practice progression to an A-. Very key for a team with 0 seniors next year, and I believe 7 freshmen if you include the redshirted players. Taking a peek at the coaching carousel, the only coaching job I would take at this point in the series would be from a struggling major conference team. So we're talking ACC, Big 10, Big 12, Pac-12, SEC, but that's still a long way off. We still have plenty of things to accomplish here in the Bronx. The only major conference team with a vacancy anyway is a 6-win Mississippi State team who didn't even have Coach Carter in their top 6 coaching interests. So safe to say, we're going to have to sustain our year 3 success and continue to upgrade those attributes by completing goals to get the attention of those major teams. But don't worry, I'm in no rush for a change in scenery. As long as this series continues to present challenges and remain interesting to you guys, then Fordham is where we're staying. Next up is our graduation ceremony. 3 starters, our top big man on the bench, our reserve guard, all moving on. Gonna miss these guys as 39.4 points per game gets subtracted from our starting 5. We'll be taking a glance around the conference as well though to see what impact players we won't have to battle anymore. We'll see George Washington's up first. They snuck into March Madness as a 9 seed. No more Baron Wheeler for them next year. That's 1 starter that's gone. LaSalle will lose out on 1 starter as well. Terry Rollins won't be there next year. Player of the year, Freddie Salazar is gone. Nehemiah Lennon's a starter. And Brock Callahan, who is probably going to step in and start in favor of Freddie Salazar. He's in the transfer portal now to 74 overall, one of the better ones in the country overall wise. I'm surprised he couldn't get many minutes behind the starting front court pieces in UMass, but he's going to be gone. Ty Willoughby, great to see him finally gone, even though he's only a 78 overall. He found a way to kill us every time we played, but 3 starters for Rhode Island. We move along here. For Richmond, it's Brett Vinson, 1 starter for the Richmond Spiders, who continue to grow a nice little core over there. D'Anthony Maroney, the awesome defensive wing, he's gone now. The small ball 5 moves on. Let's see St. Joe's. They are going to be without 3 starters next year. Eli Werner, Kenneth Ike, and BJ Haynes. Let's see, the next team is St. Louis. No more Miles Ross and no more Torrey Cortez. They have a lot of depth and talent in their backcourt, but their frontcourt's going to be a little weak next year. Cardale Johnson, arguably one of the better players in the conference. He's gone along with Chance Phelps, and they're both drafted. In my estimation, I'd say Cardale is probably a late 1st rounder. Chance Phelps probably a late 2nd rounder, but I could see Phelps being like a PJ Tucker at the next level. Xavier will be losing their backcourt that torched us in the A10 championship. Jarrett Bro and Colson Kowalczyk, a lot of shooting that they're going to be losing in the season 4 of this series. Charlotte's, with the biggest news of the offseason, Nick McIntosh obviously graduates. Nathan Lutz and Logan Bowen get picked up by NBA teams. But check out this turn of events. DeAndre Perry is not on this list. He will be returning for 1 more year of college and the first team All-American preseason heading into last year. He will be using that senior year to try to go after that elusive national title, or at least make the Final Four, which he's been close very many times with Charlotte, but just couldn't break through yet. We'll see how it affects his stock. There's been guys where it's worked out well for him, but other guys where they probably should have jumped when they did, such as Johnny Juzang at UCLA last year. So who knows, man? It's going to be very interesting to see what DeAndre Perry's storyline shapes out to be like, but I'm not going to be excited having a game plan against him next year. Next up on our offseason tasks is the recruiting period. We're finally going to have some clarity for next season as we grab some signatures. But we also have some big news that'll make filling out the roster a little bit easier. Definitely stay tuned for that. So entering year 3, we had 5 scholarships to replace our 5 graduates, and 2 of them have already been taken up. Just to refresh your guys' memory on who we already have under contract, Pat Park triumphs Kai Hendry as the top-ranked recruit ever in this series, at 29th overall in the class, and projects to be the starting small forward next year with his excellent defensive abilities and all-around game. And it looks like we secured our point guard of the future as well. Coach Carter's son, who has played for his dad all of his life, he will be joining the team, and it appears, that fact won't change in college. Kai Hendry will probably slide to the 2 as Damian Carter becomes our floor general, who has awesome potential. These two impact prospects coming off the board leaves us with 3 scholarships left for the offseason signing period, but one more comes off the board as well with the addition of our first transfer of this series. 6'7" wing player Nick Jallow wants to join Fordham's team. This was the big news I talked about. He's a Cali-born baller who wants to add to the young core of players this season. This is awesome news, as Jallow could become one of the first guys off the bench for us, and that's a very welcome sight for a Rams team who has had a very thin bench throughout this series. Jallow played 2 years in Corvallis and showed some promise. Despite having his minutes cut in half as a sophomore, he still put up a pretty similar nightly stat line to his freshman year, so it's kind of confusing they couldn't get him on the floor more. He's got C+ potential, has shown progression, he's crafty around the rim, finishes very well, and even though his jumper is a work in progress, you still have to respect him from 15 feet. And another reason why I think Jallow is a great fit on this team is his rebounding, which is almost an 80 on defensive. Season 3 was the best rebounding team we've had so far here at Fordham, and it's no coincidence that we won 21 games with that stat, so having him replacing some of the rebounding we're losing, like Swanson, our team leading rebounder last year, and Higgins, who became a great rebounder at the wing position, I feel like having Jallow will definitely help replace that board getting ability that we're going to be losing. By the way, the 2 biggest transfers in the country this season involved the A10. Jallow was the 2nd best transfer in the country, and Brock Callahan was the top guy in the portal, who will stay close to home at Brown next year, and that really does a number on the front court projection for UMass, as he was going to replace Player of the Year Freddie Salazar. But he'll play starters minutes while getting an Ivy League education. Hard to pass that up, I'd have to say. So with Nick Jallow joining Damian Carter and Pat Park, that now shrinks down our available scholarships to 2 as we highlight the most viable options to eat up those offers. Number 1 is a can't-miss prospect who I've been dying to get. I'm still in shock there aren't more teams pursuing him, but Lloyd Hicks out of Montgomery, Alabama is a 7-footer who we could plug and play to give us the dominant big we've been seeking. Hicks led all high schoolers in rebounds, grabbing over 13 a night. He's agile in the lane, gets to the free throw line a lot, and in a conference ran by bigs, these are the anchors you need to sustain a winning program. The only other school on his board is shockingly Alcorn State. No SEC schools, not even a UAB or a Memphis or something like that. Lloyd Hicks is a diamond in the rough, as you can see, and perhaps we can move Bennett Pincalo to power forward. Prospect number 2 has been a battle to keep up for. From former Richmond High School sharpshooter Timo Cruz has been a very high maintenance prospect, and it's been a tug-of-war match between Fordham and the UNC Tar Heels. We need scorers off the bench, and Timo could see a lot of shots running with the second stringers. He made nearly half his threes his senior year. He's great at shooting in transition and off the bounce, and I think the NCAA tournament run convinced Timo just enough to bring his talents to the Bronx, with him finally giving Fordham the edge in the race. I have some backup options in case stuff hits the fan with Timo or Lloyd Hicks, such as Massachusetts Mr. Basketball, and this is Isaac Moore. He's on our board as a long shot, but he'd be a pretty incredible fit to the lineup. 14 points, 11 boards, a pretty efficient scorer from inside and out. He can play, and it might be interesting to develop him as a small ball 4. That would make this Fordham team that much harder to defend with all this speed and scoring. Boston College, South Carolina, and UNC, they lead the way for Moore. Jared Domboye has been a target for most of the year thanks to his awesome shot, his selflessness, and maturity. The South Beach baller wants to stay close to home, in case you can tell by the target board, so he's pretty unlikely to be even thinking about NYC at this point in the year. With our backup options, kind of long shots, it's kind of becoming do or die when it comes to Timo and Hicks. We really don't have a concrete plan on how to replace them, so it's time to hold our breath and hope for some good news. Here we go. The signing period is officially underway. Domboye, he's staying home in Florida. Surprise, surprise. Didn't think anything different would happen, but I think he'll be a great fit for Florida State, as those Seminoles love their rebounders and team first guys. Timo Cruz chooses Fordham over Chapel Hill and becomes the 4th addition this offseason. Love to see it. We're going to learn the overalls and true day one ratings for these freshmen in just a moment, so be patient. But if Timo hits his jumper like he did at Richmond, there's no reason why he can't be a valued bench piece moving forward. And guess what? We're going to have one more guy joining him. The nation's top glass cleaner is coming to the Empire State. Lloyd Hicks eats up that last scholarship, and a huge addition for Fordham. I think Hicks will be a very hungry guy after being overlooked in recruiting, and I think he'll prove a lot of people wrong as well. This is an excellent find by Coach Carter, going all the way down to Alabama to discover this gem. Boom, recruiting done. Not as climactic against prior seasons, but I'm sure Coach Carter ain't mad at all about that. I don't think he minds his blood pressure staying at a calm pace for a change. Other news around the board: Mr. Basketball for the state of Mass is headed to Chapel Hill. UNC gets the revenge by stealing Isaac Moore after we stole Timo from them. 5-star point guard was trying to sneak into the race, as you can see here, goes to Morgantown. I couldn't make him competitive, unfortunately. No surprise there. And yeah, so that's the recruiting wrapped up for year 3. As we take a final look at the newest 5 players to this young Rams roster: Pat Park, the 29th overall player; Damian Carter, the coach's son, who's also top 60 and a point guard of the future; Timo Cruz should provide a bench, desperate for some scoring, plenty of shooting; and the top board getter in all of high school, Lloyd Hicks; and finally, Oregon State transfer Nick Jallo, who will have to sit a year, but he comes to campus as a 73 overall sophomore. And as we wrap up recruiting, we finally unlocked the ratings and overall for all of our freshmen, so let's check them out. Pat Park was a 75 overall, but gets 2 overall boost up to 77 after we changed his position to small forward. I like his 79-3. He's solid off the bounce and has excellent handles to find those looks. He's a plus athlete, and he also has pretty impressive defensive ratings, including an 89 steal, which already leads the team by far. It's not even close. I'm a little worried about the C potential. I was hoping for it to be at least in the B's, but his day 1 ability is very salivating. Damian Carter is a 74 overall true freshman who's already one of the most consistent finishers in the A10 with his 86 layup. 80 handle, 80 pass, high awareness ratings. Can count on him to make free throws at the end of games. He's good enough to be a day 1 starter, but obviously Kai Hendry's development as a playmaker leaves us with some questions, like how will he fit at the 2? Carter also has the highest potential on the team now. How about an A- ceiling for our new point man? So we'll check out the big sturdy big man inside. Next up, the addition of Lloyd Hicks finally gives us a paint presence with his 75 blocks, 79 strength, and 64 layup, which is actually very good for a big in this game. But I wasn't expecting his low post offense to be an 89 as a true freshman. He might actually be more prepped to play offense at the college level over being an impact defender, which I didn't expect. I thought he was going to be defense day 1 and the offense comes later. Also, the top rebounder of all of high school has a 79 offensive board ability and an 89 defensive rebound rating. So the tools on this kid are insane, and he gives us a powerful post guy who can hang with the plethora of great big men in this conference. Timo Cruz is a 68 overall and should be our 8th to 9th man from the jump. 79 3-point shot for Timo, but how about his 86 shoot off the dribble ability? He's also a good clutch performer and has the defensive skills to become at least average on the side of the floor. This is easily the best recruiting class we've assembled within this series. UT Martin or Fordham, doesn't matter. This unit outclasses all, and even the rankers agree with me. Fordham ended up assembling a top 20 recruiting class in the country, up there with the likes of UNC, Duke, NC State, guys like that. Pretty impressive. So Fordham will end this year with 2 4-stars, 2 3-stars, and the second best transfer in the portal this season. There's no debating if this class is elite or not. And thus, with the final players who ball for Coach Carter back at Richmond, they finally committed. They all find themselves within this legacy mode now at the college level. So Kenyon is at UVA, where he saw limited action as a freshman. He'll have to ride the pine for a little while, but I could see him becoming an energizer off the bench who can come in and put up points in a hurry. Worm committed to VCU and backed up as a freshman last year, 3 points per game as a freshman as he continues to get adjusted to the college game. Jason Lyle was in this year's recruiting class. I think I made him a little bit too good on accident. He committed to NCAA runner-up North Carolina State, one of the best defensive clubs in the country, and they just added one of the best defensive players in the class. They're actually projecting Jason to start as a rookie, which is a huge deal. And for Damian Jr. and Timo, they find themselves playing for Coach Carter at the college level as well. So now we're going to check out Season 4's schedule that's going to be upcoming as we begin with our preseason tournament. We'll be playing in the Carrier Dome, the same building that we began this series all those years ago, hosted by Syracuse. It's going to be a 8-team tournament Checking that out in the next episode. We also see Michigan State, the rematch from the first round, and they come in reloaded. 8th seed last year. Now they've brought back all 5 of their starters, and they become the number 2 team preseason in the country. Going to be a tough one, especially with all the new freshmen and the new faces, but we'll see if we can stay together and keep it close with the number 2 team in the country. Hofstra, as one of the players that we wanted to go after, 4-star wing Martin Beeler commits there. So we got a little bit of a vendetta with the Hofstra Pride. That'll be our home opener as we then play NJIT and Butler. So 3 games that are pretty winnable, with the Butler game being the most tough there with that home stretch. NC State, the national champion runner-ups, who added Jason Nye on the offseason. We play them next. And then we also play Penn. We travel to Philly to play the Penn Quakers out of the Ivy League, and we play in the Palestra, one of the most historic basketball arenas ever invented. Mid-Tennessee State at home on the 14th of December, and then Bowling Green, who was a 14th seed Cinderella last year in the tournament, we'll be playing them on the road. And then Notre Dame in South Bend, it's going to be a tough one. And then Iona is how we end off the year. Iona Gales and Rick Pitino, that's our final non-conference game. So this is definitely the hardest out-of-conference schedule I've created in this series, but in terms of in-conference, this might be the easiest. It wasn't like last year we had to go through the best teams twice. We're going to only have to play Charlotte once this year, St. Joe's once this year, St. Louis, who I believe we get at home, and then Temple, who I believe we only get at home. That's 4 of the best teams in the conference, 4 of the favorites, who we only have to see once this year. In years past, normally we would have faced them twice, most of them, but this year we get pretty lucky on that aspect. So definitely going to hopefully take advantage of that as we look to get back to the championship game of the postseason tournament. And as always, the ABL, the high school prospect preview show, that's something I like to do and make its own video, but I think I might make it a little bit later on in the season. It makes more sense to be a couple, maybe a month into the year and we finally have some clips of high school players. I might switch it up and make it a little bit later. I'm not sure yet, so I'll still see on that. But anyway, we are done with the off season. I think we made plenty of great moves, plenty of W's we caught in this off season, including our awesome top 20 nation ranked recruiting class. We got the second best transfer in the country. We set up a pretty tough out-of-conference schedule that should present some challenges, one that I'm very excited for. And here is the potential rotation. All in all, I love what we did in this offseason. Obviously, we all know it's going to be tough. There's going to be some growing pains. We have 5 new guys that are going to be getting plenty of minutes in the rotation, and that's not even counting Junior Battle, who was receiving the red shirt last year. So 6 out of our 8 guys who are seeing minutes off the jump, brand new to the rotation. So guys like Kaya are going to have to take on that leadership role. Guys like him and Pinkalo, those guys that have been around the block, they need to take this team under their wing. So we'll see if they can do that as year 4 tips off very soon. So my name is College Sports Survived. I'll be signing off for today. Hope you enjoyed this off-season video. I like to make these longer, more in-depth, and more jam-packed with content. So I hope you enjoyed today. Here's the rotation preview for the next season, and I'll be coming out with either the ABL prospect preview, or I'll be coming out with that opening game against Central Connecticut and our preseason tournament hosted by the Carrier Dome. So stay tuned for whatever comes next. This is College Sports Survived. I'm signing out. Thanks for your patience, everybody. Glad to be back and glad to have another season of Fordham Hoops on the way. So stay tuned for all that here on the channel. I'm signing out. Hope you have a great night.